David stood alone in the vast terminal atrium, alone in presence and thoughts despite the hundreds of other beings coming and going around him. This sort of duality of being pleased the analytical part of his mind. It was such in a time like this waiting in which David often lost himself in his thoughts. Nothing immediately helpful or meaningful with regards to his current surroundings, but his own trust in his ability to plan ahead for potential scenarios allowed him to lose himself in these musings. Sometimes these thoughts were based around mortality, philosophy, analysis of the comparative similarities in differing topics, or just thinking about the smallest trivial thing. David had a tendency to overthink and plan. Despite being all too well aware that such practices could be detrimental, he still did so, enjoying the challenge that unfamiliar considerations could bring. Leaning against a speckled grey wall off to one side of the bustling terminal with his bag resting between his legs and the wall, the English ginger finally looked up from his reverie. A quick glance at his watch told him that the reason for his hanging about, looking altogether like some stocky, nerdy example of a discerning millennial, should be arriving momentarily. In fact, he was running a tad late. Not that it was a concern. Open tickets on the tube made such events as late arrivals a moot point. David had met Matt twice before, way across the Atlantic at one of the world's largest events of its kind for their shared interests. Now here he waited to greet his friend into his home country to attend another of these events. There was a pleasing mirror effect there as well. Matthew Palka brought a deeply analytical mindset to any subject he approached, but equally he considered the same ideas with a grateful, optimistic outlook to give a somewhat unique perspective. This sometimes conflicted with the more logic-centered mindset David preferred to adopt, looking at something without emotion, but rather the facts and features of something before then forming an opinion. But it also brought about some interesting discussion. That difference of opinion and alternating thought processes were important to expanding horizons, something both Matthew and Dave respected. Similarities through differences. But then to some, these would be considered matters of the mundane. Hey Matt, so I wasn't really sure what to do this week, so I just decided to go with the theme of writing some form of literary introduction to a character, that character being you, through the description of me, if that makes sense. So while I'm quite sure that our meeting at the airport is going to be fairly laid back, I've always enjoyed taking the most basic, boring scenarios and then describing them in such a way that makes them sound compelling and interesting. It just shows what having a good command of both the spoken and the written language can help to just make anything sound more interesting, which is what I'm hoping we're doing in some small way here. Until next time, keep mattering, and I'll have a nice day. See you next week.